Hello and welcome to week 5 of What Does the Fish Say with special guest Travis Hudson. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Unbelievable. My dad back there in the kitchen, and I guess he wanted to be in the video. We had an interesting week 5 now in the books, so we'll just go ahead and get started with the Thursday night game from last week. The Packers were at home against the Minnesota Vikings, and they won this game 42-10. Travis, what'd you see?
I think without Bridgewater in there, Christian Ponder, there's not really a whole lot you can take away for the Vikings from this game. I don't think Asiata and Ponder is going to be a dynamic duo anytime soon.
Yeah, it's interesting almost how quickly we've kind of the Vikings season has turned from so much optimism at the beginning. Obviously, Adrian Peterson not playing with them, and then Teddy Bridgewater coming in and giving a spark the week before, and then this week. This is kind of what I expect to happen. It's a little excessive of a beatdown, kind of, but Aaron Rodgers 3 touchdowns on only 12 completions. Ponder 50% completion percentage, 2 interceptions. They struggled, so yeah, like you said, not a whole lot. We'll see if Bridgewater's healthy this week, how he plays against the Lions. But I think this is kind of what I expected from the Packers in this game. So
yeah, and it was kind of like you said, only 3 touchdowns, but only 12 completions there. Kind of a weird game flow. They got ahead and didn't really have to throw the ball a lot, which actually Lacey kind of showed up finally.
Lacey kind of had a breakout game, and of course I was playing him in fantasy this week, so it was bound to happen. Next we have the Bears visiting the Panthers. Panthers won in a close game, 31-24. Thoughts on this game?
The main thing here is the Bears got cutlered here.
They did. Seemed like a pretty typical Cutler game. You got good J and bad J in this game. 2 touchdowns, but also 2 interceptions. 289 yards, not a terrible stat line, but just again didn't really get it done. Matt Forte also had a fumble in the game. So
did Cutler fumble too?
I don't know.
I thought Cutler fumbled on a sack or something. I think, but just turnovers killed the Bears.
Story of this game, which honestly, I think the Bears are a better team than the Panthers at this point in the season, and I really wanted to pick them. The only reason I didn't is because the Panthers were at home. Greg Olsen still getting it done at the tight end position, couple touchdowns. But yeah, I think there's still a lot of question marks surrounding the NFC South. I think the Panthers are the best team in that division right now, but some issues in the NFC South, and we'll get to that here in a little bit. So, Browns at Titans. Browns win a thriller, comeback, 29-28.
And it's a shame that game made NFL history.
It's a shame. What they both had 1 win coming in, or what were the Browns? 2.
Yeah, the Browns were.
Yeah, I think they both had
1 win. They had the bye, so they were 1 and 2.
Right. So, good for them. The Titans had them down 28-3 or
yeah.
I think So the biggest comeback on the road in NFL history for Brian Hoyer and the Cleveland Browns. I did pick them in this game, but didn't really expect them to do it in this fashion.
Yeah, you don't really feel confident about their win.
Right, but hey, the win shows that the Browns are not exactly the Browns of old, that they can at least compete and get a win like that. They play the Steelers next week, so I think that'll be an interesting game.
I think it looks good going forward for the Browns, just because it started ugly. I think they've got a new coach, a new offensive coordinator with Shanahan. I think they will. I think Ben Tate, if he stays healthy,
over 100 yards that game. So
yeah, he in his first game back from the injury, and Hoyer looks I mean,
competent
decent,
enough to, yeah.
Maybe even a little bit higher, a notch higher than competent.
Yeah.
I think they could do well.
And then another side note, Jake Locker got hurt in this game again.
Yeah.
So doesn't bode well for the Titans, Charlie Whitehurst, but yeah, we'll see how they do. Eagles and Rams. The Eagles were at home, and the Rams ended up giving them a run for their money. Eagles 34, Rams 28. Any thoughts on this game?
Oh, one of those games that kind of snuck up on me. I kind of just written it off, thought Philly was going to take care of it, and then you kind of noticed that St. Louis was creeping back in there. Austin Davis looks pretty good for a third-string quarterback coming in for the beginning of the year.
He's held his own very well. Obviously, you're gonna young quarterback. Didn't see a lot of reps probably early in the season in practice and stuff like that. So for him to, his stat line, 29 of 49, 375 yards and 3 touchdowns. One, I think, shows that the Philadelphia defense has some holes in it, but not to be taken away from Austin Davis and his performance. And so yeah, I mean, but also credit the Eagles. They've only lost one game, and it seems like all of them have been pretty close, but they found a way to get it done so far. They got a big one against the Giants on Sunday night, so that'll be a good game to watch.
I think the interesting thing with the Eagles is, it's great to play opportunistic football. They're getting all those touchdowns on returns and defensive touchdowns, but just the question is that sustainable?
Yeah.
If that offense doesn't start running the ball and figuring something out on the offensive line, then they're going to be in trouble.
Yeah, Jean McCoy is definitely struggling this year. Not something that I really saw coming. They haven't been able to run the ball, and it's crazy. I told my brother to draft him this year, and
I mean, it
has not paid dividends for him.
A lot of arguments that he should have been the number 1 overall. Sproles is also getting a lot more work than I would have ever thought.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess he kind of deserves it. He's made big plays for him, so
yeah,
good for him.
I think that the offensive line will get a little bit more healthy as the season goes on. Hopefully, I think they should bounce back, and McCoy he's not going to lead the league in rushing, but he should improve.
All right. Another team in the NFC East got a win. The Giants beat the Falcons 30-20 in the Meadowlands. What's your take on this?
Oh, I mean, can't believe I'm saying this, but the Giants actually seem like a threat. They're in the NFC East, so I guess there's four teams that could be a threat in that division. But yeah, I'm not sure what to think about Atlanta here. Completely different team on the road, but back to the Giants. It seems like at the beginning of the season they were talking about the goal for Eli Manning is to get completion percentage of 70%. In his career, he had never been above 63 or anything like that, so it seems unheard of. But he's actually kind of getting close to that. Seems like McAdoo's offense that they brought in looks pretty efficient. It's not flashy or anything, but just take what the defense gives you, and so far it's working pretty well for him. Last couple of games.
Yeah, I think so too. And the Giants, they looked pretty awful coming out at the beginning of the season, and looked like they were going to be kind of one of the bottom dwellers, but have kind of picked up speed the past couple games. And in this game, I'm with you. The Falcons, it's tough to make sense of them. Them and the Saints, I feel like, are both, kind of like these wild card teams. You don't really know what's going to show up. They can score a lot of points. They got these higher powered offenses, but you just don't know how consistent they're going to be and which defense you're going to get with them as well. So, just right now, the Giants are just playing more consistent football than them, and it showed up on Sunday. And so, they got it done. That NFC East race is going to be pretty interesting, I think, with Dallas and the Giants and the Eagles all winning some games here recently. So, will be something to follow. Speaking of the Saints, they got an overtime victory at home against the Buccaneers, 37-31. What do you make of that?
Well, kind of in the same case as the Browns, an ugly win is better than an ugly loss. Although you gotta give Tampa Bay some credit. They were playing a lot better than they. Go back a couple weeks of that Thursday night game. They got completely destroyed by the Falcons. I think Glennon gives Tampa Bay a much better chance to win. I think they should probably roll with him the rest of the season. And I also think Bobby Rainey is the better running back in Tampa Bay, but I don't think Lovie Smith thinks that, or anyone else on the coaching staff.
Yeah, as crazy as it sounds. Yeah, I mean, Doug Martin a couple seasons ago was really dominating, and then I don't know, ever since he's come back from the injury, he just hasn't quite looked the same. He's still getting the bulk of the carries, but 14 carries, 45 yards this past game, really not getting it done. Bobby Rainey had the touchdown and better yards per carry. But I agree with you, Mike Glennon definitely I think is the better option. And but Drew Brees in this game aired it out 57 times, had 371 yards, a couple touchdowns, but also threw 3 picks. So I don't know. It's just tough to, and this is at home in the Superdome against the Buccaneers. So just tough to gauge where they are as a football team. This was their second win. I think what makes them 2-3.
Heading into the bye week.
So I think the bye week kind of comes at a good time for them. They can kind of regroup and.
If Jimmy Graham isn't able to be, 80% or more for the rest of the season, if he's got a nagging injury, if that shoulder becomes an issue, then they've got major problems because take away Jimmy Graham and that team doesn't. Brandon Cooks looks great, and they should be getting Mark Ingram back soon, but without Jimmy Graham, I don't like the Saints moving forward.
Yep. And I mean, I'll admit at the beginning of the year, Saints were my Super Bowl pick, and obviously I can't really change it, but I don't feel confident at all about that now.
Yeah.
So I don't know. We'll see how they bounce back. Like I said, I think the way the NFC South is playing right now, they still have an opportunity to make a move. Like I think the Panthers are the best team, but Falcons are kind of faltering, and they'll get to play the Panthers. So we'll see how that goes down.
Yeah, you gotta look at their defense. Everybody, that was kind of, I think, the reason that a lot of people picked them for the Super Bowl is Rob Ryan in his second year is going to be even better than he was the first year. They got some personnel in there. Jarris Bird goes down for the year.
Yep.
Wasn't playing well before he went down, but that defense is really not meeting expectations. So that's a large part of the Saints' problem.
Definitely,
right now.
yeah.
So
I think
that's going to put more on Brees' shoulders in the offense.
Where the offense has carried them in previous seasons, they've kind of fallen short. What the heck? Texans at Cowboys. The Cowboys get it done in overtime, 20-17. Tony Romo looking pretty good again, but more importantly, DeMarco Murray, his 5th game now with over 100 yards. Still lost another fumble. I think he's lost a fumble in every game so far, but that seems to be the strength of their offense so far this season. What do you think?
I think Scott Linehan going with the running game. I think that's a great formula for the Cowboys. If they win, if they have a good season, it's going to be because of their running game and their defense, which is, if you'd have asked me, if you'd have said that at the beginning of the season, I would have said you're crazy. But Romo's playing well. The offensive line is playing well, and that move that Romo made, getting away from Watt there.
Yeah, a couple plays where he really wizarded it around in the backfield and had a deep touchdown. That was pretty impressive by him coming off that back surgery. The Texans, it's funny, they were on the road, but I was watching some clips from this game, and there was basically more Texans fans than Cowboys fans.
Yeah, Romo said that they had to go to a silent count at home.
It's like they were playing a road game at home. That's crazy. So
A little bit different than my fan base, the Chiefs. We have a little bit better reputation than that. I don't know if you've heard.
So yeah, the Texans. I think they played a pretty good game. I think that Arian Foster was really good. Fitzpatrick was kind of the weak link. Didn't do a whole lot through the air. That Cowboys defense held up pretty well. So Cowboys get a good test next week. Have to go to Seattle. Good luck with that. I'll be rooting for them, but hey.
Yeah. One last thing on the Cowboys. Did see a stat that showed that DeMarco Murray is on pace for somewhere around 440 touches this season. Any back in the league, I would say that's not going to work out, let alone DeMarco Murray, who's had injury issues. They're going to have to figure something else out. I mean, it's working great. Running the ball is working great. They're winning right now, but they're going to have to mix it up. Maybe put a little more on Tony Romo's shoulders, throw the ball a little more, and or throw Joseph Randle in there, kind of split some carries up a little bit so that he's not going to be. Yeah, you don't want to run your running back out of gas without having him for the stretch of the season. We're not going to make the playoffs that way.
Maybe it'll be interesting. Yeah, because he's kind of injury prone anyways. He's held up well so far this year, so see how long that lasts. Hate to see a player get hurt. He's a good player, so we'll see how that goes. The Buffalo Bills. Jim Schwartz returns to Detroit. It's carried off the field in a win, 17-14 against Detroit. Thoughts on this game?
Well, first, about Jim Schwartz. If that's the Super Bowl, that's great. Yeah. But it was a Week 5 game. I don't think that was necessary. And yeah, it's against the team that just fired you. But how old is he? He's an adult. I think he should probably maybe act like an adult. Not have his team carry him off. And there's some issue whether the team just did it and he went along with it, or if he told them about it ahead of time, whatever. I don't think it matters. You should have some respect, and in a regular season game, that's a little bit out of line. But,
yeah, that was kind of sketchy, but.
And Schwartz already kind of has the reputation of pushing the envelope a little bit there, so.
Yeah. The bigger story here is Kyle Orton is 1-0 as the Bills starter against a good Detroit defense in Detroit. He did throw a pick 6, but had a pretty good completion percentage. He was efficient, 308 yards, and they beat a good team. And the Bills defense, I think they're kind of one of the more underrated squads in the league. The Lions have a good offense. They haven't really been themselves though this year. Calvin Johnson's been kind of banged up. He didn't finish that game. Joique Bell and Reggie Bush were both out of that game, essentially. Reggie Bush got hurt early in the game, so got that win guy that came in. Darn you, Reggie Bush! I need you for my fantasy team. But that's neither here nor there. But I think this is kind of a statement win for the Bills, and puts them right in the thick of the AFC East race with a big game against New England next week.
Yeah, that kind of set itself up pretty well there. Patriots coming off of the meltdown against the Chiefs and then blowing out the undefeated Bengals.
Yeah, it's a tough team to figure out.
And now the Bills will go up there and play New England, so that'll be a good game. I think you're right. I think Orton definitely gives that team a better chance to win, and I'm interested in seeing what happens going forward with the Bills.
Yes. Kyle Orton, the neck beater. Actually, it's just a mustache now.
Yes.
He just has a mustache, so.
But the mustache is still undefeated.
The mustache is undefeated.
May it live on.
May it keep going. Ravens Colts. Couple of good teams in the AFC. Colts get the win at home, 20-13. Both offenses kind of struggled in this game. Do you think that's a result of the defenses playing well, or just poor execution, or?
Hard to tell here. No, I think the Ravens had some offensive linemen go down with injuries. May have had something to do with it, but I know Bjorn Werner, however you say that name. Bjorn
Werner.
Yes, he had a kind of a breakout game. 2 sacks. You know, he's a first-round draft pick last year. Kind of disappointing, but kind of showed up to this week, and we'll see if he can sustain that success. But yeah, this is a pretty hard-fought game. This is kind of one of those games that you kind of expect from Baltimore. Andrew Luck had a turnover that was
they had 3 turnovers.
I did not see that coming.
They had 3 turnovers in the game. I don't know how many Baltimore had. Flacco had 1 pick. I don't know if they had any fumbles, but Luck had 2 picks, and Bradshaw lost a fumble. So if you're the Ravens, that's and you win the turnover battle like that on the road, that's a game you want to come out with a victory. But Andrew Luck's resilient. The Colts are resilient. And their offense is good, so we will see. Flacco's been, I should say Steve Smith has been a pretty nice surprise this year, but didn't show up. Well, he lost a fumble too on that first play, so there's 2 turnovers for the Ravens, I guess. So, I think had a couple good teams in the AFC in this game, and Colts just came out on top. So, not a whole lot to take away, I don't think, either way from this game. But
I think Andrew Luck might be the best I've seen as far as making a mistake and coming back and just having that short-term memory, or even to go a step further, using that mistake as motivation to come out and just lay it to him on the next drive. You just see something takes over in him. I think the Colts are. This year, I think they're going to go far, but if you look at the next 5 years in the NFL,
he's a competitor.
They're going to win some championships.
And the more he plays, the fewer mistakes he's going to make. So, he's a good player. Steelers at Jaguars. Jaguars kind of stole this one on the road, or Steelers stole this one on the road, I should say, 17-9. I think, I don't know. I mean, the Jaguars they're 0-5 now. They haven't won a game. I know nobody. That they're all professionals. There's no easy out in the NFL. But this was a close game. I mean, it took a pick six, really, essentially at the end to seal this win for the Steelers. Blake Bortles kind of struggled, but any concerns for the Steelers' offense here?
Yes, because the Jaguars' defense had been pretty awful to this point. I don't know if that speaks more to the Steelers showing up soft, or maybe the Jaguars are made a little bit of improvement this week. But yeah, I definitely think Pittsburgh's strength this year is going to have to be their offense, and that was definitely lacking there against the Jaguars. Le'Veon Bell had a decent game, but just didn't score any touchdowns. That offense has got to score touchdowns for them to have any success.
Yeah, very interesting matchup next week. They go to Cleveland, which is a really big game, and I think Cleveland's got a really good chance of winning that game.
Almost beat them in week 1.
Almost beat them in week 1. That's right. So moving on, not too much. Hopefully, Blake Bortles will play the rest of the year, and he'll get better. I think he's a good NFL prospect.
Yeah, you can't get too crazy about his numbers. Maybe they're not the best, but he's really not coming in a great situation. I think maybe had Henne not been injured, that might have actually been the right choice to sit him the entire year. But obviously with the injury, he's got to be thrown in there too early. But build with Gus Bradley coming in, they'll get a new team built there, and I think they'll be competitive here soon. I think Bortles will be a good NFL quarterback.
I think so too. So moving on to Travis's game of the week, the Chiefs fell to the 49ers on the road in what was a really good game. Niners took it 22-17. So for a little perspective from a Chiefs fan, what you got for me?
Well, it was a pretty bad day for the Chiefs.
It was brutal.
And unfortunately, that game came down to a couple plays that made the difference. And for the second time in 5 weeks, Andy Reid made an apology and, kind of comes out and says, made a mistake, should have went with Charles. The Titans game, the first game of the year, it was not giving him enough carries throughout the whole game. Against the 49ers, it was basically that one sequence where we had completed a nice pass to Bo, got us 9.5 yards, so we were looking at 2.5 a yard, and he throws the ball, runs play action, and we end up punting when really you run the ball twice there, and you have Jamal Charles and Niall Davis, either one. Don't tell me that they're not going to pick that up. The majority of the time, I know the 49ers front seven is really good, but I think they would have picked that up. I think Andy Reid knows that, and hopefully after admitting that for the second time, he will put that into use and not make that mistake again. The play calling was a little bit suspect, and that fake punt on the 29-yard line by Jim Harbaugh there, I mean, that guy's got some guts. Not a lot of coaches in the NFL would make that decision, but it ends up being the right one. Pretty easy for that to not work out, and then it looks like a pretty stupid call, but it worked out, and that sustained the drive, and I think that's the drive that they ended up scoring their touchdown to Stevie Johnson there, their only touchdown in the game. And that's really tough because it's kind of hard. You can't expect your special teams to go out there and stop a 4th and 1. That's kind of a difficult play. It's just kind of unfortunate. But with the play calling, you can control that. And then there was I think on the next drive, 49ers were settling for a field goal on 4th and short, and we had the 12-man penalty. Yes, that's inexcusable. I don't know if that was a coaching thing or one of the players in the wrong spot. I don't know how that happens. I just playing high school football and growing up playing football. That's one of the things that you can't do that, especially when your team has put you in a position where you can come back and win the game right there. You can't. Obviously they went down and they still scored a field goal, but that chewed up another 2.5 minutes of clock and made the field goal shorter. So. That really kind of screwed us over. Had to put us in 2-minute mode when we got the ball back, and obviously we threw the interception, which not great as well. Kind of hope that Alex Smith might seize that moment, that opportunity, and then it kind of just went down off the cliff there. But, we still played decent. Our defense looked pretty good at times, and, they rushed for 171 yards on us, but that's a good running team. They've got a great offensive line, and we've had some injuries on the front seven there with DeVito and Derek Johnson, so can't complain too much there. But again, back to the play calling. D'Anthony Thomas in his first game touches the ball for the first time in the regular season and scores a touchdown. In the preseason, first time he touched the ball on a punt return, scored a touchdown. And that's the only, and today, against the 49ers, that's the only time he got his number called. Why aren't we giving the ball more to D'Anthony Thomas? Travis Kelce also had only 3 targets in this game. Took one of them into a 2-yard touchdown that I know probably didn't make Logan too happy. But
of course, I was playing him in fantasy too.
Yeah, any NFL players out there struggling, just find out who Logan is playing in fantasy that week and tell him to pick him up.
That's right.
But, Niall Davis, only 2 carries in the game. I think Andy Reid is going to have to realize at some point that he doesn't have receivers. He didn't have to run the ball.
You didn't seem to really feed your studs that game. So the distribution and the play calling definitely a little suspect. And the sad thing about this game is it changes a lot of momentum. The Chiefs are going into a bye week. The Niners now have won 2 in a row against, the Eagles and now the Chiefs, who had just blown out the Patriots. And then the Patriots bounce back and blow out the Bengals. And so if the Chiefs win this game, then you're talking about, how they just, romped over a legitimate contender in the AFC and the Patriots. But instead, with a loss, you're now looking at a 2-3 team going into the bye. So, I'm a little surprised at how well they've been able to play without their studs on defense. But, they'll hang around this year, and unfortunately they're behind right now, maybe the 2 best teams in the AFC in the Chargers and Broncos are both in their division. So
yeah, and we really kind of dug ourselves into a hole. If you look at the season as if you break the season in half with the bye week in the middle, obviously we're 2-3 right now, kind of put ourselves in a hole. Really, I can't see us getting into the playoffs at 9-7. So you look at it, we basically have to go. We got to win 10 games. We're gonna have to go 8 and what is that? What are we, 2-3?
2-3.
So we can really only win. We can only really lose 3 more games.
Yeah.
So we got to go 8-3 the rest of the season. That's gonna be tough with the schedule. Playing the Chargers twice, Denver one more time, Seahawks. It's not looking great for Kansas City in the division the way that things are shaping up right now. But yeah, we'll see what happens. I'm not gonna say I really thought the Chiefs would be a 7-9 or 8-8 team this season. So that may end up being correct, but definitely got excited after that Patriots win. I kind of thought we were headed towards more of the 10-6, but
'cause I'm on the up and up. Definitely a tough loss there.
Yeah, but for the 49ers, I'd say I picked the 49ers to go to the Super Bowl this year. I actually picked the 49ers and Patriots, so that would have been interesting if the Chiefs would have won.
The darn Niners.
But
49ers.
But Kaepernick is not gonna amaze you throughout the game with his decision making. Sometimes not there, sometimes even inaccurate. But it always seems like there's 3 or 4 plays throughout the game that he just kind of wows you. He makes a throw that you wouldn't expect anybody to make or anything like that, or scrambles on a 3rd down. It got the Chiefs on that play where the Chiefs ended up punting after throwing it on 2nd and 3rd and short. We pinned them on the 6-yard line, and defense held, and I think it was 3rd and long, and Kaepernick ends up scrambling for it and sticks the ball out and picks it up. He's always going to extend drives like that, and I think that'll be pretty big this season. Brandon Lloyd also,
Heck of a
ridiculous catch for a guy that wasn't even in the league last year. I think the Chiefs should have signed him last year, if not even this year before the 49ers did. But,
It's yours. The Chargers rolled over the Jets in San Diego, 31-0. Another dominant performance for Phillip Rivers, really looking like an MVP candidate so far this year. Puts them to 4-1 with impressive win. Well, really their only impressive win would be Seattle, and then they beat the Jets, the Bills. Well, the Bills, it was a good game. And
that was a convincing win against the Bills. That's what you can say. The Bills aren't. If they beat the Bills by 1 or 2 points, that's nothing huge. But they pretty much traveled across the country and took care of the Bills. So you got to think something of that.
They did. So until the Broncos beat them, they'll be the powerhouse of the AFC West. Or until they've got the Raiders next week, so probably won't lose that game. But the Chargers, if they're the Chargers from previous years, they'll end up losing a game or 2 that they have no business losing. But that's the nature of the NFL, I guess. And the Jets, Geno.
The Geno coaster was out of service for 2 quarters, but it looks like it might be up and running by the next Sunday.
It's up and running, but guess who they got next week? Denver's coming to town, so that'll be fun. Don't get any easier for them and Rex Ryan, so I expect that we take that game. So the Patriots and Bengals, like we were talking about, tough to figure out the Patriots right now. This was, obviously the best game they've played all season. Easily their best offensive output. Gronkowski was involved. Tom Brady was actually connecting with receivers downfield. Got a lot of first downs as they were having. They had a lot of punts through those first 4 games of the year, and then the Bengals, who were the last undefeated team, the only undefeated team in the AFC, really just didn't seem to show up for this game.
Yeah, and it's kind of a tale of two coaches here. It's a big game. The Bengals come in undefeated. It's an away game. Cincinnati's kind of known recently for playing well at home, but not as good on the road. And they go into a big game like this, and Marvin Lewis lays an egg. Andy Dalton lays an egg, and the Patriots, coming off of that huge loss, come in, and this is the Belichick way to do things. You come in off of something like that, and in that press conference, moving on to Cincinnati. That's exactly how it works, and it's kind of annoying to listen to it, but it worked.
Yeah.
Him and Brady got it done. Gronk looked good in that game. So I'm not ready to say that they're back and they're an elite contender. I picked them to go to the Super Bowl, but I don't know necessarily that that's the case, but I'm not writing them off.
Yeah. So that loss definitely makes the AFC North race a little more interesting. I still think the Bengals are the best team in that division, but like you said, what has showed up in the playoffs the past few years kind of showed up in this game. Don't know if they're just, I don't know what it is. I don't know if they're well enough coached or if they're just too young or what, but they looked pretty bad in that game. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out for both of these teams. And then the Monday night game, the Seahawks went into Washington and beat up on them. Russell Wilson was pretty spectacular once again. Really, honestly, I think that's the story here, is that Russell Wilson, 18 to 24, 200 yards, 2 touchdowns, 122 yards rushing.
He played 2 positions.
He did. That was amazing. And so he got it done. Really, I thought the Seahawks, when they're on the road, they're a different team. They were pretty beatable in this game. It was 27-17. The defense didn't really do a whole lot as far as pressuring Cousins. They didn't force any turnovers. The Redskins were kind of able to score on them. The offense had a lot of 3-and-outs, a lot more punts than they normally would. So this is a game, where unfortunately they were on the road, and the Redskins are obviously a lesser team, but I think had it been another team, someone might have been able to beat them tonight or on Monday night. They really weren't quite as dominant as they usually are, but still the best team in the NFC, and they got it done here.
Yeah, I think it just another point that Seahawks may need the number 1 seed to get back to the Super Bowl. If they end up having to play, say the NFC Championship game on the road, you don't like their chances nearly as well as if they lock up home field advantage. So playing in that division, I think the consensus was that the Saints could run away with the number 1 seed in the NFC, but clearly that's not happening. So I do think they do get that number 1 seed, but
games like this are important for them to win on the road and get that number 1 seed. I agree that their odds of getting back to the Super Bowl go way up if the playoffs go through Seattle, and unfortunately I think they will. I don't think anyone's maybe the Niners, but
we shall see.
But anyways, that was the rundown. If you stuck with us, you are something special, and we love you.
Most of you.
Unless you're a Steelers fan. Sorry, Larry. So we will catch you next time. Travis, thanks for joining me.
Yes.
It's been real. We'll have him back on the show some other time. Oh yeah, big shout out to the boys in blue, KC Royals. They are playing Baltimore this Friday and are one series away from the World Series.
Woohoo! I-72.
I-72.
Haven't
The
lost a
Cardinals are
playoff
still in
game.
it too. So
Royals haven't lost a playoff game since 1985. That's pretty crazy. Isn't it?
boom, boom. So go Royals, and we will see you guys next time.